All right, we are at the BHive workspace in Church Street. A lot of people playing snooker. We are doing podcasts. A lot of people are running around and we are trying to stop them from interrupting us. Okay, here's what I'm going to say, that today's conversation is going to be a lot about India and how India is changing. And I've got Shashank with me. Hi, Shashank.
Hey, Vishal. Thanks for having me here.
You came in on the metro. Wasn't that fast?
That was indeed fast. I was not expecting to reach Church Street from Whitefield in 34 minutes.
So people listening to this, Bangalore is not all that bad. Okay,
Yes.
it's still good.
Yes.
Yes, we have potholes and all that, and our government's plan to make things better by November. But that's also the story of India, isn't it? Story of rapid change. We've become laggards in some ways because we're not able to cater to the changes. That's changing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
What do you think will change?
Beyond all
Beyond the
this,
roads and all this, yes.
I think just the way we are adopting technology. I think that is the biggest change in millennials, Gen Z,
Yes.
and baby boomers. And I think no other country is going through this shift of technology adoption.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest change, and that change will continue to form and create a structure over the next 10 years. There's a lot to happen in terms of adoption of various kind of enablers, tech-enabled products. And I think that's the exciting change in India, and that will continue to happen.
And by the way, if you're watching it and got this far, like and subscribe. But Shashank is a VC, and we're going to talk about investments today.
Sure. Yeah.
And wish you all the best if you're a startup and in deep tech. You like deep tech, don't you? So you get 1,500 emails or something per day.
So we launched the fund in May of 2025, and it's been 3.5 months, and we've received 1,500 applications over the last 100 odd days.
So that's a good start.
Yes.
And we're going to discover what 247VC is in this conversation. So enjoy. Thank you, guys. Hey, welcome to the upstreamlife.com. I'm Vishal Krishna. And if you come so far, please like and subscribe, because my guest today is Shashank Randev. And he knows the VC industry like nobody else because he starts investing at a very early stage. He's practically built the playbook for angel investing. And I'm going to talk about many things of how India has changed in the last 10 years. We're going to talk about what he's up to now. By the way, his new fund is called 247VC. Let's find out what it is. Hey, Shashank, how are you?
Good. Thanks, Vishal, for having me here.
It's about time we met. It's been so long.
Yes.
And you know why I like talking to you? It's like we have graduated in the Indian angel ecosystem. You started investing early, but between 2014 to 21, how the Indian ecosystem changed, man. It's been fabulous, isn't it?
Yes.
It's nothing, it's like a story out of a history book.
Yes.
That this inflection point is now going to change India. Would you agree with that?
Agreed. 100%.
But you want to talk about that a bit so that our young audience understands what
Sure. So I think, and we discussed this earlier, my journey started in 2009 in terms of startups, right? Where I was the founding member for a startup which got later acquired. And we built a product for the VCPE community. And that time, the larger client base was private equity, and they were doing larger check sizes. I think the inflection point came in when we had the first set of founders like the Flipkart Bansals who had reached an escape velocity.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these PE fund guys started moving out, setting up their own funds, realizing that the next 10 years could be the advent of smaller check sizes, which then were 5 million, 3 million, which is still significantly higher. And I think
the word escape velocity, it is true.
It is,
That's what happened.
Yeah. And then what happened in 2016? I think the government initiatives of Startup India, the fund of fund schemes, plethora of fund managers emerging, plethora of good founders coming, a few bad apples and a few good ones. I think the ecosystem started maturing. And one added point was a lot of folks had started coming back from the valley, and the ability to kind of inculcate the processes in new age companies started coming in. So I think by the time we reached 21, pre-COVID, I think the first layer of establishment had been set by both private investors, government, founders, and second-time founders, right? And I think that became one of the key elements for the last decade for Indian startup ecosystem, from my vantage point.
I mean, personally speaking about this industry, I used to cover the old world corporate, right? Between 13, 15. I was just blown away as a reporter that the startup thing just blew up, man. I mean, it blew up in the right manner. I mean, it was suddenly a bunch of, I would say youngsters, suddenly everybody wanted a piece out of India.
Yeah.
We were known as the IT services world. And suddenly you have these guys from the IT services world funding these startups.
Yeah.
We know them, Honda Spy, Nandan
Yes.
Zikni and all those guys, Narayan Murthy. I have a feeling that at that point of time, the check sizes were easy. Anybody got funded, everybody got funded. There were a lot of good apples, bad apples, like you said, but in that came Flipkart. In that came, well, I mean, let's not call Zoho. Zoho is different.
Zoho was different. We had InMovie, Fractal Analytics.
InMovie,
So many.
Fractal, Fractal,
Yeah.
Musigma.
Sigma.
So we had these,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And now they've become investors themselves.
Absolutely.
Let's quickly end the first 2014 to 21 segment. What were the rights that we got? What did we get right? I know that you guys started that angel investing platform, 100x. It was very successful. A lot of people loved the platform at that time. What are some of the good things that happened in the ecosystem? What are the bad things? And let's move on to what 24/7 does.
So, in the previous one, we actually weren't an angel investing platform because we were a fund, but we leveraged a scheme launched by SEBI to incorporate a fund with a bare minimum ticket size of 5 CR, which was an instrument used by many angel platforms. Instead of taking your and mine money into a startup and us both getting onto a cap table,
Right.
which is what angel networks were doing, they used that scheme to bring your and my money into the scheme and then deploy it into the company. But we used it as a proper fund, and we were investing with that fund where 100x was the backer, and in deploying
Your money.
This is our money. We've raised it from LPs.
Correct.
And a few select LPs, and not taking angel money to put that. There's only a group set, handful of investors. We were a 145 crore fund. What worked was why we started that, because we fundamentally believe that the YC model had worked. It was the mecca for attracting all high-end growth stage fund to come down. And India had reached that point where the supply of good startups, risky assets, risky stage, early POCs, and if you could create a platform where you can invest in them, back them as the first set of investors, and showcase them and the predictability and the ability to drive an outcome in terms of they getting funded by follow-on investors, institution. If you were able to crack that, then it became an institutionalized process. As I said, 2013-14 PE growth stage, but nobody was going at the bottom of the pyramid. And I think that's what we're trying to solve. I think that really worked. We had a fixed model, and we were able to attract some amazing guys. We also missed out on good founders because our ticket size was fixed. But what we were able to achieve, we did 180 investments through swifting through 15,000 decks over the last 5.5 years.
You say many of them are Series B now.
It's 5% are going to Series B, 20% are Series A. Good success stories: Up Coffee, Kerala Banana Chips on consumer side, Deep Tech, EMO Energy, Enterprise Tech, Data Sutram, and they're still growing, right? And also a bunch of companies which have failed, which is a function of the whole part and parcel.
So that was the story of the early time, right?
Correct.
So
So
a lot of experiments.
a lot of experiments, a lot of risk-taking ability at and institutionalizing this process where no VC was coming in. Nobody was funding concepts and POCs, R&D stage company which are just about to move to commercializing from incubation centers. We work with 350 incubation centers. We have 15% of our portfolio companies which are right out funded right after they passed off from or
That's why you call it heavy lifting.
it is a lot of heavy lifting.
5.5 years of that. Right?
5.5 years. But what happened was this bottom of the pyramid became strong. And also what happened is that we realized that as VCs, you can't just sit on a high pedestal and wait for deals to come. Or you need to build the community and channel partnership. And for us, that meant training the CEOs of incubation centers also to evaluate the right set of companies to incubate so that a percentage of those companies can be backed by us. So the pipeline management also. So we did all of that, and that worked brilliantly.
Would it be good to say that we practically, built the playbook at that time? All of us together.
Yeah.
The media, of course.
Yeah.
You as a VC, of course. The larger VCs.
Yes.
We built out a playbook, right?
Yes.
Where we have incubation centers that now understand what is the type of startup that they have to select.
Correct.
It's not VCable, but the idea.
But the idea.
That
Correct.
idea, right?
Correct.
And this idea scale and make impact.
Correct.
That is the understanding.
Correct.
Correct. Am I right in saying?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Did that work? Why did it work there? You wouldn't have worked the first first cycle. Why wouldn't it have worked?
So, and again, coming back to the 14 to 21 era, incubation centers, besides the IIT ones, which have been there for the last 20 years, none of the other incubation centers were active. It's only in 2016 when the government started giving them grants in the form of Atal Innovation Mission, and Department of Science and Technology also started saying, why only IIT? Let's just go to Vellore. Let's also go to some regional engineering colleges and set up incubation centers. So the volume of incubation centers started increasing.
Okay.
And because everything was moving so fast that when we walked in, we said, we'll get supply from incubation center. Little we realized that they're also nascent. They are also dealing with a volume game. So from an output perspective, they need to identify a company which will get funded by VCs. And in 2019 to 21, the stack was less than 1% companies were being funded by VCs across check sizes, 1% from incubation centers. So I think when we were doing 25 lakh checks of 1.25 crores, our objective was how to empower this. And as a function of that, also then train them that, okay, fine, if you're able to identify this space, figure out the TAM and the opportunity, we come in and figure out the business model. And if the founder is inculcated in the process of, let's say, I want to build a company for next 10, 15 years, then we'll build it out and then hopefully take it to a Sequoia, right? So this engine mechanism was not set up, but we only succeeded because we had the incubation centers also. We also had the Head Start foundations and so many NASCOM foundations where we were getting curated deals from on deep tech. I think that whole ecosystem had reached an inflection point and our timing just felt right.
Correct.
And the execution prowess which we brought onto the table. I think it was just all of that combined.
I think it was just brilliant. I think the government support at the time mattered. I think the last 10 years have been fantastic for India. Yeah. I mean, because we both are in the mid-40s, let me say this to people. The India that we saw in the 80s, I got 90s, was very different all the way up to 2007-8. You were right. 2009 onwards, those entire smartphone thing when it started. I remember a time when people said BlackBerry is going to last forever and that the touch phone won't last. But we've seen what's won. I mean, India adopts the things you may at least understand what's happening. I mean, suddenly Indians adopt things like that, right?
Correct.
I think we went from these big fat TVs to flat screens very fast, didn't we? Even laptops. I mean, people consume more here than laptops.
And then I think the quickest was the adoption of UPI across age groups. For my mother using UPI digital transactions.
I've seen people consume YouTube. Older lot know how to use it. They just want it for YouTube because they can access their older content because all the content is there.
Correct.
They use UPI. They're able to use Blinkits and the Zeptos. Because they want grocery. India is changing so fast, so rapidly. I would have never imagined there's new rich. There's a new rich. They're a rich that cares about the country. They genuinely want it to change. And you used two keywords, and I'm going to come back to that in the conversation. You said deep tech. Every investor now talks deep tech. We'll get into that in a bit because now we've ended that segment at 21. You've now started the fund 24/7 VC. Why did you start 24/7 VC? And the check sizes would be larger, of course, and there's obviously you do follow-on rounds as well. Is the concept deep tech or is it going to be India, the entire India stack and how India stack is emerging? If I look at India stack, Shashank, I know it's a long question. The stack, let's say the stack is logistics, the stack is consumption, the stack is finance, the stack is user experience in the end on the consumer side, and on the B2B side it's agentic AI, all sorts of LLMs. And how is that story playing out? It's a long question, Shashank.
No, great question.
This is a platform now. I look at India as a stack. And thanks for UPI for showing us that direction.
So I think, having invested in 180 early stage pre-seed companies across segments, deep tech, middleware infrastructure, LLM models, and consumer brands, right? The focus and fixed sizes. And the whole operator experience between me and my founder, we realized 2025 is a very different year. We have matured as an ecosystem. There are smart founders and everybody uses the word smart capital. What it actually means is capital with the ability to distribute the product and reach a product efficacy per se, right? So our thesis was very clear that I think we've elevated, we've created the bottom of the pyramid. This is stable now, and there are a lot of VC funds coming from top down, PE managers moving growth stage, and this the level of hard work required over here, which as a function of the setup we had, we did, and we felt we were at the right stage to move a notch up to see what goes wrong, what works, and fine tune it. And hence the thesis is we do 30 investments over a span of 3 years. We do 2 to 5 CR check sizes with 40% allocation for follow-on funding, which also helps us understand the math and the ability to take returns, because at the end of the day, it's a business which we are operating.
And these are mature businesses, or these are mature companies. So mature ideas.
Yeah, so these are pre-seed to seed in some cases. Now, the thesis which we built out, one is Industry 5.0 advanced manufacturing, and we're seeing a lot of things happening over here. We funded a few companies earlier, and that's where this thesis became very strong for us. Second was deep tech, and deep tech has a bunch of things, whether it's space tech, whether it's foundational AI, or whether it's quantum computing, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around in terms of the use cases, what's happening. Then there is enterprise tech, which is lots happening. Again, foundational AI is here as well. There's a middleware infrastructure play. There's cyber security, right? There's DevOps. All of these, and while it's easy to say this is one vertical, second, third, these are all interrelated. And for the first time in 10, 15 years, we're seeing it's cross-pollinating. A logistic company could be developing for an industry use case, but you leveraging a specific model in an enterprise tech, right? And building that piece. And the last piece is consumer tech. So thesis is that we come in, we deploy in these companies, and across these segments, there are stages which we'll come in at. So for a deep tech, since we've done deep tech companies previously, where we've given 25 lakhs at a prototype stage, and those companies have now today doing 4 to 5 CR per month, gone to Series A. We have no fear of saying, "Arey, deep tech is slightly earlier. We won't do it." So I've crossed that threshold. So over here, for a deep tech, I'm very comfortable if a founder has built something and it's at R&D final stage to commercialize it. I know what requires to be done here if I come in with a 2 to 5 CR check size. So over here, prototype to very early stage commercialization is a stage we come in at, whether it's pre-seed or seed, nomenclature aside. For enterprise tech, we are coming in with an expectation should have at least the stickiness or the utility of the product determined at an enterprise level. Now, that can be achieved as a function of multiple paid POCs, or saying I have 2 large enterprises using it and there's a visibility for next 24 months. We prefer that stage. Again, nomenclature aside, could be pre-seed, could be seed, right? And in terms of deep tech, again, the same, in terms of Industry 5.0, now whether it's logistic, we briefly spoke at the beginning of the conversation, logistic in terms of shipments, shipping space in terms of last mile delivery, within that cold storage. Here also the same principle in terms of enterprise. You've built something, and I'm able to see the stickiness or utility in at least a few use cases with some potential customers, right? We'll come in and we'll invest in. And if it's a consumer brand or D2C, which we are sector agnostic, we'll look at them. But if I was to like double down on those guys, I'm looking at a specific number per month, because if they are able to taste, the consumer is able to taste the product, and I'm seeing love for the product, and they're growing at a X percentage week on week, then that is a strong indicator. So in all these 4, the highest expectation in terms of product market fit is from the consumer. Here, we are willing to back very early on because we've had the experience of building these companies out.
What do enterprises say about, let's do the B2B side first.
Sure.
You talk to a lot of these enterprises perhaps in your meetings, and what are their expectations? There are 2, 3 ways I'm looking at it. Every department, right? So say they're a manufacturing firm. They tell me that, look, our LLM is going to come into manufacturing. There's Industry 4.0, but can these agents help the technician? I thought that was already there, but they don't know. Apparently, a lot of the industries haven't done it. Is that an opportunity to do in India for an SME kind of construct?
There is.
No. One. Do you see, let's start there. Let's start with B2B manufacturing. Because I'll connect that to the consumer story later.
Please do. Yeah.
So why can't India do something for the SMEs? Because I remember the government would say, okay, you're a cluster in Tirupur. Let us get Microsoft to come and give you a subscription for that cluster. The government would enable it. In an LLM world, what can we do?
So I'll break this in two parts. One is what's happening with the SMEs. So from a funding perspective, SMEs are never in the
Very bad.
they're not VC findable because structurally, because benefit of startups are not applicable to them. Is not 7 years under 7-year registration. So all of those nuances structurally they don't fit in.
But only when they get to a 500 crore turnover, when the PEs start taking interest in them.
When the PE will take. Only PEs will come in because then it's like a larger business, right? But SME going digital and products being built to be utilized by SMEs is definitely a huge market. And what has happened now, coming to the 21 post cycle, COVID was a great enabler because it compelled and forced people to get digitized.
Correct.
Right? Whether it was a case of connecting your team, and I'll give you a specific example because there was a company which we had backed, didn't do very well, but was trying to solve for this, that manufacturing plants are down. There are equipments which are being used for the last 50 years. In some rare case, 5% of SME owners, third generation, say, Dad, I want to change the equipments. And that would have been 10-year-old game. So even the new age SME third generation guys would still have a 10-year, 15-year-old machinery which was replaced by a 50-year-old. And during COVID, the downtime, everybody was shut. When they were starting, there was a fear of these workers coming in full capacity. If SME factory had 10 and only 2 were popping up, right? So there was solution being determined that, there's an automation sensor enabled tool which can latch onto your machine, no matter how old it is, will be able to detect a switch on and switch off the machine, be able to tell you downtime and uptime.
It's called what? Predictive maintenance that they call. They call that.
Correct. Yes. And the SME owners started adopting those solutions. And that was the inflection point of, because it was very difficult to get inside SME or get owners of SME businesses to buy new age solutions. And that's where they realized, I need this, right? Whether you're an enterprise or you're a startup, as long as you're able to do this problem for me. Because this COVID situation, we have not encountered ever. My dhanda is completely down, right? And I think that really changed the way SME started looking at new age technologies. And building on that point, there are multiple solutions which can be sold out. Today, there's a huge drive on the ability of, semiconductor manufacturing, right? GPU.
Semiconductor has been tough in our country.
It's been tough,
right? And you would know, in our lifetime, when we graduated and all the way now, it's just still been a lot of meetings, some developments, announcements, $1 billion investment. And nothing seems to take off. Let's be honest.
So what's been happening on the grid circuit level or on a chip level, we've looked at many businesses, whether they're coming out of IITM incubation centers or a bunch of other STPI initiatives, right? And then STPI taking the initiative, say, boss, you have a challenge, I'll give you a facility. Chalo, you make it, right? I will give you grant also, right? And then they're like, okay, I can test this in SME. So STPI has created a distribution with SMEs also. All these things are happening right now. So today, to answer your question, in short, is SME a viable market for products to be built on and sold to? Absolutely, yes. Post 2021, there is a huge requirement, and it can be products which could inculcate and have a module of LLMs specific to, let's say, agentic workflow, because the first level of penetration of me attaching a sensor to a machine has happened in 2021. So the openness of SME owners is there. Now, can you genuinely build a solution to? And I was at a conference earlier, and somebody said a very interesting thing, and this was what I took. Unfortunately or fortunately, in US, people look at so the two ways. And brilliant idea proposed by this one entrepreneur on my panel. Said that, why is it tough to sell in India in enterprise or a B2B solution? Because in India and in the US, the maturity level is different. What does that mean? They will evaluate a solution on efficiency.
Yes.
India will look at top line, boss, my output revenue kitna hai, which is also not wrong. But It shows how solutions are being in minds and how you are building solutions, which is, I think, a great insight, right?
It's an amazing insight.
So I think SMEs market and the manufacturing, I think we're reaching that inflection point. Now that's why one of the core theses is there, because I'm excited about what's going to happen.
I have to agree with you. How will the change happen? Let's look at consumption, connect back to this very thing that you told me.
Sure.
India's consumption is going through the roof. It will go through the roof. I was talking to Fireside Ventures Vinay, and I'll send you that podcast. He says it'll go to the retail market. It'll double. It'll go from 1 trillion to 2 trillion. The interesting thing is the SMEs are the ones who are going to manufacture our shoes, our blazers, our shirts. We've done well in the department of consumption.
Yeah.
And I'm sure food is going to go through the roof in that. It's going to be 50-60% will be food and the rest will be other products. And 10 years ago, Shashank, I could count the brands in my fingers, the top brands. But today there's so many. Every day I discover something new on Instagram. And believe me, the quality is also good. Not the quality of the Japanese yet, or the Koreans yet, or say the Americans, American IPs yet. We'll get there eventually, right? So again, connecting the LLMs in the manufacturing side and connecting all the dots towards how we can enable consumption, better customer service, LLMs in the consumption side as well. The brands will use AI eventually to figure out customers, although they're on these platforms like Insta, and I'm sure they'll figure out how to understand their shopping carts.
Yeah.
Don't you see a beautiful connection?
So I do. And coming to the manufacturing piece, I'll say, so there's one brand which we had invested from a previous fund.
Yes.
Kerala Banana Chips.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And I happened to visit its manufacturing plant in Trivandrum.
Okay.
This was 2.5 years ago. I was amazed. Third-party vendor.
Correct. Third-party vendor.
Third-party vendor.
And these are the SMEs.
And SMEs. And I spoke with the owner. And he put me to shame because he had more deeper understanding on automation, which works in twice the size of this conference room.
Yeah.
He had the latest machine rollout in terms of the banana being cut to it being sliced in the right thickness, going all the way, and everything automated. He explained such nuances technically. This is not even Kochi, right? So the small SMEs manufacturing are already implementing the tech as we seeing in the last 2-3 years. On the consumer side, if you zoom out and you look at 30,000 feet view, I think what is interesting is and these are stats. We've crossed the 1.8 billion mark.
Yeah.
Like China's, we've crossed that, which is good and bad, but good from my vantage point. B, the most digitally connected country in the whole world, where I think you've leapfrogged the journey from telephone to mobile, and then the adoption of tier 2, tier 3 smartphones, usage penetration, all of that, right? So consumption aspirational power is there. Now, it's becoming important for consumer brands to track how a tier 3 persona, ICP, 18 to 35 is thinking of a product which is quite different from from a tier 1.
I mean, this is interesting. They've figured out the smaller town.
So I'll give you another example, and this is an insight I got 3 years ago. And again, I'm not a consumer, I don't have a deep thesis on consumer, so I don't, but, and this is through MBA days, and then obviously the many folks we've spoken with. HUL and large PNG brands, they have soaps and sachets.
Yeah. We remember that. That was their invention, wasn't it? 1 rupee, 55.
So they, but largely sold in tier 1.
Correct.
You had ITC Chopal models, all of that, but there's a 4,000 or 5,000 crore business in Kanpur called Ghadi Detergent.
That's a local manufacturer.
Ghadi Detergent. And it's been there for 30-35 years or maybe 40. Their distribution, not even HUL, India has been able to penetrate, right? So the newer consumer brands, I think and I believe, has to address that problem, because for the first time, the larger brands have not been able to do this over the last so many years. So the new age consumer brands need to factor in that today you've got the data, they're digitally connected, you have access to some level of this guy from tier 3 ordered it from Flipkart, he's consumed, you've got that data, you have more power than, let's say, PNG had. It is important to understand how they're going to consume over the next 10 years.
Oh, man.
and there are players tier 2, tier 3, ghadi detergent, nobody, and you see the ads on ghadi detergent, right? They dominate from UP, Uttarakhand to Jharkhand, Bihar, Calcutta. Nobody can, humko ghadi detergent chahiye. But that's the story. And that's India, and that's tier 2, tier 3. And I think that consumer brands need to factor that in. If they say, we'll grow in tier 2, 3, there is a entry barrier there. And if you are digitally connected to that consumer, they are consuming your product. Factor that in, that till how long will they consume, because there is a loyalty factor already there. If you can club it in with aspiration. Again, it's an open canvas. I'm just throwing in
great canvas. I'll tell you, people will be now confused. These guys have gone from manufacturing LLMs to consumer LLMs, and now they're...
Because we've done, I've been sector agnostic, right? 180 companies, we've had consumer, Kerala branches, Up Coffee, to EMO Energy, which is the battery cooling technology, enterprise tech, data from, right? And that's where the thesis became sharper, and we felt that, okay, there's more, as I said, there's more value creation I can do on a deep tech, enterprise tech than I can do for a consumer brand.
Yeah, but the matching of the two is superb, right? Which you're doing.
I mean, yeah. So
there are opportunities at both ends.
Both ends, right? So from a consumer brand perspective, I'll be more interested in consumer tech. So as you rightly said, if somebody can build a tech and tell me how to map the next 2/3 of India's population resides in tier 2, tier 3, that's the tech I want to latch onto. Understand.
But imagine the chips company that you spoke about. Deep tech can play a major role in terms of the plastics. I mean, we have zero plastics.
So I'll interject you over here.
Yeah, please.
When you said plastics, so we've invested previously in a company called Wasteful Robotics. It's a deep tech company. We monitored it for 2 years because they were perfecting. What it does is segregates 9 different types of plastics. But it took them 30 minutes to segregate. At the end of the second year, they brought it down to 9 seconds.
Wow, that's fast.
Right? So the use case was not the municipal wastelands, but these SMEs who are in the business of segregating plastic and then making products around it, right?
Boxes.
And they are using Wasteful Robotic as a tool to segregate plastics.
This is interesting.
And these kids are still growing. There's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah.
But this is already happening.
You look at these large food consumption companies like let's say Zomato and Swiggy, and so much consumption happening in the urban areas. Landfills will get filled in faster, with the kind of plastic that are going in. If we have these kind of companies, it's going to change.
At least it's a step forward. I'm not saying they're eliminating plastic, but the segregation will help you identify bad from good, what can be used for recycled packaged foods. All of those things can be inculcated as a process.
Okay, I want to just take a section here. I want to throw a curveball at you.
Sure.
You can throw it back to me as well. This is also, I would like you to ask me questions if you can. So if you've got this far and you've enjoyed the conversation, please like, subscribe, and please ask questions, because that keeps me busy and it keeps Shashank busy, and it's more meaningful when people ask questions. Okay, so write in those questions about consumption, technology, whatever. So Shashank, I want to say that if you look at our generation, right, we didn't have choice. The key word is choice.
Yeah.
But we lived through mosquitoes, no fans. I don't know about the north. No, you lived in the north.
The electricity used to be no fan.
You would go, you'd have a fan, but no electricity. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And what? School days were tough. Only one pair of black shoes, that Bata thing, and the canvas shoes. And the one that we had to polish, we got whacked for it.
Yes.
But now you look at it, we're talking about it on some kind of, not science fiction level, this is reality.
Yeah.
India is doing it all.
Yeah.
Right? So, in that, I want to talk about consumption, right? Again, there's a breakthrough in it. It's huge now. But are we being, again, sustainable? Is my question. What are our children going to live with? Because we talked about plastics, and there's a robot that segregates these plastics and they do something with it, recycle it.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Where should India move the needle in terms of this? And probably we have the best material scientists in the world.
Yeah. So I think the benefit China has, that it's a communist regime, so it can execute processes and then
faster,
wipe out cities and say this is a manufacturing hub. Unfortunately, India, and maybe fortunately, we are a democratic nation. So I think what has happened in the last few years, the cohesiveness of government's intent, the private, and the consumers, and then with the Digi Yatras and the UPIs and all these mechanisms which is bringing us together, uh, it's going to be a longer ride for us to kind of have that, impactful journey for the next 40 years, from my view. As like sustainability, circular economy, products being built out. I've seen both sides of the spectrum, where I've seen frivolous products, hemp-based shirts.
I've seen them.
I'm sorry to say this, and no offense to anybody, but hemp-based to where the focus is on making the product look cool, but what's happening on the backside when you're genuinely trying to build a circular economy, a sustainable thing. And then the other use is recycling, and how do you kind of incorporate that piece, right? And then there is the use of removing plastics completely. Like we've had so many bans in Bombay, no plastic bags from here, only paper bags. 2 months again, we're back to, right? So why is this happening? Because we're a democratic nation. The each state government, central policies, private intent, all of these will have. So I think a circular economy,
the intent should, from all stakeholders, should be real.
Absolutely. Like for instance, now recycling. Within recycling, there are a bunch of opportunities we are evaluating. Lithium-ion based batteries are being utilized everywhere. There's a huge opportunity in terms of recycling it. Now they're being given to standalone SMEs.
Correct.
There's a huge opportunity, and there are many startups working.
Are there many?
There are. We've spoken with at least 5. 2 of them have been funded. I missed out on one.
Are they good?
And they're good. They've built this whole process of procuring, breaking, recycling it, refurbishing them, then supplying it to BMS players, either as new format or going to the farmer side, where they are using it in fertilization. They have these backpacks behind, and those can be attached, right? So the process is happening, and I'll club it under circular economy, right?
And are they also doing recycling of lithium ion for reuse?
For reuse. Both
for reused in the automobile?
For in this farmer category. Yes. So one is new, they build out new, and then they sell it to EV automobile.
Yes.
EV manufacturer. And the other one is reusable. Now there's a durability which can, there's a utility which can be extracted. Farmers are not using these new age techs. So, but some of the ones have gotten used to, and I'll give you a specific case which was a eureka moment for me in one of the investments we did in 2019. But in this particular case, these refurbished batteries, and then they being used in some capacity by farmers in farms, is being used. Now, one thing which is very interesting in agri-tech, which happened for me personally in 2019, I went to Nasik to evaluate a company which had applied to us. And the company's name, is Philo. Great founders. I went there, they had this device installed in a farm, which was producing grapes. And the supplier, they were suppliers to vineyards for winemaking and exporting. So the purpose of the machine was to determine moisture level, and to what extent, because grapes need to have the right set of moisture so that they reach the quality test of being taken by the vineyard. I said, this is all fancy, very nice, but you're selling it to a farmer. Who's going to use the app and all that?
So that was a mismatch?
I was wrong.
They were using it. That's what
I was wrong. The greatest insight I got, this is 2019, Vishal.
So farmers are using.
Farmers were so, and again, this is a niche. This is not tomatoes or onions. This is grapes. So there's a little sophistication, because 90% of your export. So you're attuned to the customer base you're supplying to.
And these were vineyard grapes?
These were vineyard grapes.
For the wine industry.
For the wine industry, right? That was their first use case. So the greatest insight was farmers are far more open to adopting newer technology as long as the yield of the farm output is there. And Philo today has grown from doing that for grape farms to moving to different set of vegetables, right? And this is something which we are seeing in terms of sustainability, right? So if you can automate wastage, the biggest problem in some farms, north, south,
is the wastage.
Water pump gets open and then it drains. We've invested in a company which enables automatic shutting down of water. The challenge first is water supply is not consistent. You don't know when the water will start. So you switch on the pump and leave it.
Water you need,
First challenge, you switch on the pump, you don't know when the water is going. When it comes, you don't know when to stop, because it will impact. So there are tools which farmers are using, right? And so again, sustainability circular is a huge topic.
Do you think our kids are living in a country which will take care of its citizens?
I feel optimistic about it. I feel optimistic from a perspective that it also boils down to you and I.
Yeah.
And we spoke about it earlier. Like I'm trying really hard to inculcate some value system,
Yes.
some
Values. No.
values to this kid who has access to multiple choice, Netflix, whatever, Roblox
Yeah.
and Minecraft and all, what all,
Everybody's got access.
right? And either I can.
My daughter ends up watching Russian content for some reason. It's very weird. Russian content in English.
So I'm also dealing with my wife who watches K-pop, so I have to deal with that also.
It's interesting. Why? I mean, I hope people watching this don't misread us or misunderstand us. We're talking about the soft power that these people have enabled.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say these people, it's the K-pop Koreans,
Yeah.
it's the Russians, it's also the Americans for the longest of time with Hollywood and all their shows, and the Japanese as well.
Yes.
We have exported yoga,
Yes.
which is great,
Yeah.
and Bollywood, of course, but our culture, for sure, though, it doesn't keep up with whatever they're putting out on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Because the internet is owned by the West.
Yes.
You like it or not?
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you're right. So sustainability, value systems of India, where are we heading?
So I'm saying, okay, another point.
Because our life was, I mean, I'll tell you what, I was surprised. I have to tell you this, and then we'll move into this conversation. Somebody younger than me. And I have a habit, even if I go buy the most expensive of shirts, and no offense to people who buy regularly, I use them for 7 to 8 years or 9 years. I have a Timberland which is 25 years old. It's a collector's edition though. It doesn't smell, by the way. That's a different thing. Okay, but what I'm saying is, my mom would kick me if I mean, those days, they never brought us much, man. Right now, my wife complains, I end up buying everything for my children. Now see the different side of the story. Is that sustainable? I ask myself, right? How many choice again? There's so much. So what are we leaving our kids with is what I'm scared of. Because India is rapidly changing.
No, so I think there's the pros and cons to both aspects. I'm still discovering that. I don't have an answer. I'm still discovering what will work. But I think what's happening is that we the kids education.
Education starts.
Education, right?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Education. We had even within education, they were specific nuances which you go after, right? I think that whole the choice of selecting what you want. Like so way back I studied in CBSE.
Yes.
And I also happened to very briefly study in IB, and that's where I realized the power of picking your electives. When I'm a science student, I could pick up an elective of psychology and social and history, right? Not be judged or looked down upon. Either you're a humanities student, you can't do engineering, or vice versa, right?
Yeah, you did both. And then IB school taught
we did both. We did both. To the extent where I went to engineering in the first year in Maharashtra, first 1 year, you have a social studies one paper, which is frivolous. You just have to do it. I ended up asking some pointed questions on a discovery of a shivling, which was mentioned there. But how is this possible if the year was something like that, right? And everybody was like, why do you have to get into the focus on mechanical side of it, right? Point I'm trying to make is, I think that our children's, with the change in the education policy which is happening, which is again on a 30,000 feet NEP, a lot of changes are happening. Then the multiple modes of ICSE, CBSE, IB, and you've got these, and then you've got this.
There's many more.
Many more.
There's IB, there's ICSE, CBSE.
Yeah.
And there's, I don't know what, there's many.
Bunch of these, right? There's some Gurukul kind of formats, all of that, right?
So there,
So I think it's upon you and I to choose one path where these kids will go. But the cross-pollination of information, the kind of the society we guys are living in, the connectivity, we didn't bring up one thing. I brought this up 2 nights ago with a 24-year-old kid from analyst from a VC fund, and we were just talking about it, and I mentioned ICQ, and she was like, what is ICQ? And I remember using ICQ as a messenger platform, which was 98.
AOL.
It was the messenger platform, right?
Now it makes sense.
And it was,
I used to connect with people in the US.
Exactly, right? Back there, I can connect with anybody I want, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same idea, right? I think that's happening at a faster pace in India. Our kids are privy to a lot more than what we had access to. But uh, on a side note, I bring in, we were just talking about where I'm going after this. Your and my generation still do this.
Yeah.
The Gen Z are preferring to stay at home and consume products like Kerala banana chips. Consumption
Very interesting.
is coming in a different format, right?
Very interesting.
So
Yeah.
now bringing this back to sustainability, right? So these guys are a lot more aware than we guys were.
Yeah. Okay. So they'll make the right decision.
I'm hoping, because
Yeah.
I think I'm seeing that also. It's not fully negative.
So you touched on education. Have we shot edtech in the photo, or is it alive at all?
Yeah, so I've been trying to figure out edtech for quite some time. I don't have an answer to that. We invested in one company which was doing assessment grading tests.
Yeah.
And it failed miserably, right?
Very weird, man.
And
there's the government struggling. I told you I met the government of Karnataka skilling department, and they were saying people are not being skilled, and they were scared. It's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah. So and again, we spoke about this also. I think the pace of change at the government level, whether it's NEP, is not fast enough.
Yeah.
To the adoption. And I mentioned this company which is based in Karnataka, which is purely working in Mangalore to provide curriculum
in local
language
using AI, right?
Because those guys in tier 2, tier 3 are going to largely pick up jobs in Mangalore coming from that, right? He has no association with the government, the Karnataka government or the Kerala government. He's doing both states. Nobody's working with him. They should be. So the skill department in India should actively have a startup engagement program to understand who's working on these tech and distribution to enable that. Because I think skill development department is working in, again, that's what I'm trying to say. Democratic nation, siloed.
Yeah, takes time.
We need to bring in those.
All stakeholders.
All stakeholders need to come in. That's the only way.
It's about time, because I see weather change is happening. I mean, seriously, and we talked about the polar analogy that you had.
And Delhi this winter, I heard that they started cloud seeding because of the pollution which comes in, right?
Yeah, nobody's answered question. It's interesting. I have pollen allergies, doesn't go away. But then I went to this fancy hotel last week, and my wife and I stayed there for a few days, and I had no pollen allergies because of the air purifier that they had. And I'm forced to buy air purifier because I won't be sneezing all night. It's strange, isn't it? What? I mean, I hope Indian cities, governments, you were right, getting these stakeholders together is the key for India. It's good to be democratic because you won't get mowed down.
Correct.
And I hope people don't come back. What are you guys hinting at that, China, referring China?
No, I'm the reason why we brought it up, because everybody wants to compare us to China, but it's not a correct comparison. We've got our own strengths and we've got our own set of challenges, and we're moving towards that. But if you say, no, but China's done this, that's because it's a different ecosystem.
Yeah. I want to come down to my final question on SaaS. Then we can go explore the BHive co-working space.
Sure.
We'll chat there. And I want to know, this agentic AI thing is practically putting the SaaS entrepreneurs on a scare. But you have an explanation to this, that they don't have to be scared. It's the ability to go deep down into something.
So I've also read that SaaS is dead.
And especially when Sridhar Vembu goes in a press conference, SaaS guys are in trouble with agentic AI. I mean, it sends the wrong message sometimes.
No, so see, I think it's not the wrong message. It is. I think that's the truth. But
it is the truth.
But from my vantage point, I built out a SaaS platform, which was a subscription-based platform. It had an input and it had an output, and it would give, let's say, 4 outputs, right? And I was fixed in terms of my pricing model, giving a subscription. I think what SaaS businesses need to do now with the advent of agentic AI, and I'll now go a little granular in terms of specific use case, right? So if today I'm building a research platform and it gives you access to company database, public company comparables, and other comparables in the US. So I have name of those companies, I have names of those data sets and their revenue and top line, and I have an Excel sheet which can give you the access to that information. But to do this, you have to pay me monthly subscription.
Yeah,
right? what agentic workflow in SaaS format, and they're doing a phenomenal job in terms of a lot of other avenues. And then there's a whole debate about agentic wrappers, which I also believe is important to have. But now coming back to the SaaS thing, what in today's time, if I was supposed to start
A SaaS company.
a SaaS company like the one I started in 2009, built out, my pricing, my model cannot be this. What I will do is I will inculcate the agentic AI tech, whether it's, and through that tech, I will try and figure out how I can silo this data and then piecemeal. You're paying as you use. And there are models. Not everybody's going to use the report. Not everybody's going to use the Excel data or a certain. And that is, I think, what everybody's trying to say. The SaaS traditional model is ended.
Yeah.
Now it is up to the SaaS founder to evolve the product with the new age and break it down for consumption and utility. That's, I think, what is happening.
That's a good thing to have.
Because enterprise tech is here to stay, right? You've got infrastructure, middleware infrastructure, which is there. The companies who are providing those solutions. There's a company which we invested in long time back. One of my first angel portfolio companies called Knight Fintech, banking infrastructure company, providing treasury management solutions. Started with cooperative banks, then moved to private bank. Cooperative banks means physically going to a district in Sangli, sitting across a government officer and saying, "Boss, and you have to, whatever you're writing, I'll do it on this platform." To that, they've now been funded by Axel, and they've using these technologies to kind of not have a standard model. I'm working with a private bank. You have a hosting issue. I will provide you this piecemeal information. So I think what the SaaS business model has failed. And founders who continue to sticking to that business model, they will not survive.
No.
If you have the existing product data,
Yeah.
information in whichever domain you're operating in, and you're able to leverage the agentic workflows and the newer techs and figure out a pricing mechanism, whether it's per usage, it's not strictly number of logins.
Yeah.
And look at, and you can see this with Zoho, Freshwork. Look at their model. They're evolving. They're still thriving, right?
They are.
They traditionally SaaS
Correct.
enterprise tech businesses, right? That's is what my 2 cents is on this. So it's the business model is failing because there's a scope
The
for
use case itself has changed. The use case of SaaS when
the
you're
use
selling,
case, yeah.
when you're selling,
When you're
sell
selling,
differently.
yeah, you're selling it differently,
Yes.
right? And your ability to,
Articulate it.
your ability to break down that product.
Yes. Yes, it's going to be
So
tougher.
your CTO has to figure that piece
Yeah,
out.
It's going to be tougher.
But that doesn't mean that what I built out doesn't have utility. That's because
So the narrative has changed.
the narrative has changed. The end procurement head or the consumer at the enterprise, the client, is saying, I don't need all of this. I have a budget and I need this. Let's figure something out. I think that's what's happening. Now, with the advent of APIs coming in, my ability to kind of, work with a bank and say, I'm going to use one open source API, and then you build something on that, build a voice bot enabled, which has a specific vertical use case. The challenge with those bots are after the 10th question, you connect back to an agent. Now, agentic AI is solving to 50th question with more depth. And now if I can figure out the pricing, right? The number of times I've reached 10th question, the number of times I've reached 20th question or 50th, is an opportunity there. If I say, no, 50 pricing, whether you use 10, 50, that doesn't work in the landscape. I think that's what's happening.
Okay. So quick last question here. CTOs and the leadership, how are they taking decisions on tech? When you
On the large enterprises?
Yeah. How is it like? I mean, what is their, are they still being sold by the large companies? One thing about the good news is the IT services companies are here to stay because they'll manage AI.
Okay. I've not, I've stopped working for enterprise in 2007. So, and my wife continues to work in an enterprise, right?
Do you meet the CTOs, I'm sure?
We meet CTOs, CIOs, Chief Information Officers.
What do they want from startups? That was the question.
And so that's what I'm trying to do. So, I don't think so large enterprises have. Okay, so my problem with large enterprises is that the decision-making process.
It's too long.
No, who is taking the decision, right? So there's an SBU head who's figuring out one problem use case. The other is figuring out one use.
Each product has
right,
its own problem. Yes.
Right. So when you ask what are they looking for, I don't think so. They know what they want because they're used to a procurement hand which goes for renewal annual basis. Product continues.
I've seen this with my own eyes.
So
yes.
so
So that thinking has to change.
so are your internal folks adept enough to understand what is being provided by a new age entrepreneur? Is the first step.
I don't think the procurement guys understand.
Procurement anyway, sorry, procurement is not. But even the guy who's using it, he's one SB head in one use case, right? One guy is, let's say,
There's no consolidated.
there's no consolidated consistency in what you want. Now, what the other thing which I've seen is there are a lot of corporates who are definitely progressive. They have these startup programs. They work through SI system integrators. They want to integrate these solutions with for their clients, whether they're doing it for healthcare. But the litmus test is too stringent, right?
Yeah.
This is very blanketed, like, oh, you're a startup. Will you be able to deliver this over the next 5 years? Because my project is 5 years. What you fail to understand is that are they able to yield that result in that one thing? And if you are able to determine that, then you should somehow have a program to give them that grant or work with them.
Time.
Because your output and so I think there's a mismatch here.
I hope somebody changes that.
It is getting changed because I'm seeing a lot of these CTOs and CXOs and CIOs, their willingness to work with startups. There are corporate innovation programs. There's CVCs which are wanting to invest off their balance sheet, but there's still a lot of work to be done, and hence the opportunity, and that's where the excitement comes in, right? There's still a lot of scope for us guys to come in, back these companies, work with them in and out,
to come and do it.
walk in with them, tell them, because we understand both sides, or at least we think we understand to some extent both sides.
Yeah.
And that's what is exciting. That's where the building blocks can be laid.
Shashank, long conversation, so much to process. I'm going to go home and I'm going to think about many things, and I'm offering you this, and I hope you say yes. Every quarter you come here, we should do a 30-minute podcast on a course update.
I'd love to.
Shall we?
Yes.
I think that's important, and thank you so much for saying yes. My question to you is, both of us talked history, science fiction. How do you manage time with that? How do you get time? Is that what drives you to becoming a better VC? That there is some imagination out there, I want to change the world?
The honest answer is I would have loved to say yes. I balance my life with, evaluating companies and taking out time for reading, and it doesn't happen as much as I want to. And there are these empty patches where, there's a lull where the fundraising is going slow. When you're launching the fund, there's some paperwork pending and you end up picking up a book. I used to do this a lot more in terms of a scheduled format with some allocation of reading time, some allocation for watching something I like in terms of documentary, and then, evaluating companies. With this new fund, my time and energy is only going in closing the fund and evaluating the first set of applications. So I'm not reading or watching as much as I could have and used to, but there are so I haven't read a book in maybe 3 months, but there are a few books which I've read time and again. So there are a lot of books which are pending.
What are you reading?
So currently I'm actually reading a book by Mr. Lamba on the basics of financial modeling, and this is the second time I'm reading, and I love reading that, going back to that book.
Can it be read by a historian like me?
Anybody can read it. That's the brilliance of that book, because it just goes to profit, loss, balance sheet. It helps you fall in love with balance sheets.
Yeah, I have big confidence. I can go to P&L balance sheets. I understand.
So for engineers, we need to continuously go back to that, because nobody talks. It's easy to talk about tech and all of that. But at the end of the day, at the fund, when you've invested and you're managing, you're looking at the P&L, EBITDA and all of that, right? So that's one book I keep going back to, because we come in at a very early stage. So by the time we've invested in the companies, hopefully if they're doing well, then these numbers start kicking in and making sense of, the balance sheet then, and then eventually saying that they have the ability now to go raise another round. That becomes critical. So that's one book I keep going back to. I usually don't read so much fiction. I've always been a non-fiction kind of a person. But one of my all-time favorite books is Tao of Physics, which I really like, because I won't say I'm religious, spiritual, but there's a combination of science and spirituality which kind of keeps me clued in. It's a little ambiguous, but little concentrated. So that book is one of my favorite books, which I keep going.
Understand. I mean, when he said we don't have to be politically correct, and our generation was very politically correct.
Yes.
And you're right. I mean, you don't have to really be a believer. You can be a balanced person, right? Your spirituality is not just about an absolute. Right?
Yes.
That's what physics is, isn't it?
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Correct.
And that's why you're drawn to the foundation, isn't it?
So I've read the book.
Books are better.
I saw the series. This was one of the
Series is not the book.
yes.
Please,
So
people watching it.
yes, spoiler. So I think the book, the sheer
Magnitude. Right?
yeah, I mean just the number of years and the ability to look at civilization across galaxies, and then most interesting part in terms of the tech adoption and non-tech adoption, the robot, and
Right.
the same concept we use in Dune Prophecy. Right? They loosely built on the same, and I find Dune Prophecy as a better show. Usually disappointed
Basis. Yeah.
on the show basis.
Show is better.
On this Dune show,
It's much more intriguing
much more intriguing, much more intriguing. But yes, I think the foundation
as a book.
as a book series, just the concept, right?
Do you know where he got the concept from? He's a great writer.
Yes.
Physics.
I know that when he moved to New York, and I think this was late 60s is when he
The 61,
60,
62, yes,
he started
doing this.
right. And actually, it's good that you've asked me. I love to understand, because just imagining that.
You know how he understood that? Simple Roman history. He took Roman history as, so the Trantor is the Roman Empire at its terminus in the Eastern Roman Empire, which survives another 1,000 years after the Western Roman Empire collapses.
Okay.
That's how he bases it. But the science part of it
Yeah.
is phenomenally written in very simplistic, philosophical,
Yes.
very philosophical also.
Yes.
In styles, and how empires collapse. Now technology plays a major
Yes.
role.
Yes.
It's something else.
Yes. So you asked me. So I mean, and we touched upon this earlier also. Those are some of the pieces which I try and sometimes take on. But because having a kid, and we talked about where our generation and our kids' generation are going, I also end up now spending time inculcating some of the shows which we must have watched and we felt it's good. So off recently we've introduced into Mahabharata.
I must thank you.
And 1980s version, right?
Did it well?
It's available on YouTube. Bad, the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Episode. I'm already on episode number 22, introducing concepts, and it's interesting to see if you think that 99% is factual, which I believe fundamentally it is from my perspective. Then the concept and the nuances they've introduced, and we spoke about casteism and how they approached it, and how they then got filtered and then misused, and then the whole connection between Dwapar Yuga and Kal Yuga. So we've known it, and I can now talk about it at the age of 44.
Yeah.
But inculcating that is one of the missions which I have right now, because that's not available easily as it used to be at our time when our grandparents did. So that's one of the things which some of the time is. So I'm no longer spending so much time reading, or even in the next 3 months, okay, I picked up this book, I'll read it. I think this portion is taking a lot more time. Fundraising, closing the fund, evaluating companies, and inculcating this process, because son is 7.5 years of age.
Time with it?
Not as much as I should be, but I think we somehow figured out.
Yeah, it's very
Couple of hours a day, just to get up early in the morning,
entirely.
while you drop the kid to the bus stop. I think that process, and as much as you can make, right?
No, I think we'll have you back again in many more episodes we're going to do together. That's a promise, guys. And I really think that families are important. They keep us going. Yeah. And thank you for sharing a piece of India's history and how we've changed the BC ecosystem and the startups. I think we're enablers, and we're going to get old another 15, 20 years, but we're going to stay young, and a historical mind will play a major role in advising many more startups, I'm sure.
So I like to, and this is for the audience, right? While Vishal, you've been quite, you're being humble about it, but I think one of the inflection points for many VCs, many investors, has been based on what the kind of work you've done over the last 10 years, right? Because you've also had the ability to ask hard questions, which has forced a lot of folks to kind of relook at the ecosystem, and those hard questions being asked 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Indeed.
I've seen your work since 2013, 14, right? So I think as much as we've done and we get the share, I think for all the audience folks, I think your work has been one of the catalysts also for the Indian startup ecosystem.
Media played a major role, and I hope to continue, and I hope I don't disappoint.
Yes, no, I'm confident about you.
So we're going to do more of this.
Yes.
That's the truth of it. Thank you so much. And by the way, guys, thank you so much for being parts of this podcast. Again, like, subscribe. We are at BHive Space on Church Street. To check them out. Thank you, Saish and Ravi, for enabling. Thanks, guys.